It is possible to impart instruction and to give commands in such a manner and such a tone of voice to inspire in the soldier no feeling but an intense desire to obey, while the opposite manner and tone of voice cannot fail to excite strong resentment and a desire to disobey. Major General Schofield. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Once again, we're talking about leadership. We already covered what leadership is and it isn't. We also covered the first two principles: know yourself and seek self improvement and be technically and tactically proficient. We're going to go into seek responsibility and take responsibility for your actions, probably the most important part of leadership, and make sound and timely decisions, because indecision has killed more soldiers than a bad decision. Before we get started, please like, subscribe, share with your friends. It helps the channel grow. It gets the videos out there to more people. It's not even about the monetary part. I have a job. I have my retirement. But I like to get my videos out there and like to hear people's opinion of them, even if they disagree with me. So like, share, subscribe. Go ahead and let me know in the comments what you think, especially if you disagree with me. Now, before we get started, just one note. If you hear naughty black dog in the background barking, it's because she's mad because I won't let her in the room while I'm filming. So she's going to have to suffer for a few minutes while I get this done. And I'll give her all the attention in the world, and she'll get her little cheese nip treats, because those are her favorite treats. So there you go. We just opened up Jahari's window a little bit for you. And if you don't know what that is, look it up. It's a pretty good thing to understand human nature. Now, seek responsibility and take responsibility for your actions. It's very important, because there's an old saying that you praise in public and you talk to people in private if they've done something wrong. There's also, if you're doing something and it fails, the leader takes responsibility. If it's a win, the team gets credit for the win. It's because as a leader, be it in the military, in the business world, or as a parent, you're the one that's ultimately responsible for success and failure. In the military, it's really big. You're responsible for everything your subordinates do or don't do. And the famous thing to talk about there was DUIs. Because if one of your soldiers got a DUI, you had to go pick them up, bring them back, then you went to see, depending on where you're at, what level it was, up to the division sergeant major with the entire NCO support channel and your soldier to explain why they got a DUI. Now, were you able to keep control of your soldiers at 2:30 in the morning in Fayetteville, North Carolina? No, you generally weren't, and I dealt with it. But ultimately, you're the one, you get chewed on as much as they did, and that's part of the job. In the business world, if you're a C-suite executive, then those mid-level managers and those frontline workers, when they screw up, yeah, some of it's going to come down on you. And it could have been because they weren't trained right. It could have been because they didn't know any better, or it could have just been because they don't care. And yet you still hold some responsibility for that in the eyes of your superiors. Now, in a family, your kids go out there, and kids are going to do dumb kid stuff. They always are. I know a young man right now that's dealing with a DUI. He pled guilty to it. He's dealing with the repercussions of it. But he's been very honest and taken responsibility for what he's done. Where I see grown adults in their 20s and 30s, and this kid's 19, so put that in perspective. But you see adults that refuse to take responsibility for their actions. I've been guilty of it in my personal life. I've been way guilty of it at certain points in my personal life. And I've come to terms with that. I strive every day to become a better man. And all I can do is hope that those that I've hurt see that and begin to believe and trust that I am not the same person I was 2 years ago or 4 years ago or 10 years ago, because I'm not. And it's personal growth and self-awareness. And it's me being able to admit, and I actually apologized in one of my videos to those I hurt. And somebody reached out to me and said, thank you. Because when I stopped and thought about it, there's a lot of people I've hurt in my life that I never actually reached out to and apologized. And that's taking responsibility for your actions. Now, seeking responsibility. People look at ambition like it's a negative thing. But here's the problem with looking at ambition like it's a negative thing. You never go anywhere in your life. You're sedentary. You get a job and you work on that factory floor for 30 years, 35 years, and you used to get a retirement. And that was great. You can raise a family on one income doing that. Well, you can't anymore. And in my mind, the idea of working on a factory floor somewhere for 35 or 40 years is just, it's monotonous and it's crazy and it's why. The same goes with when I worked in corrections. You'd have people that have been corrections officers, a CO1 for 25 years, going on 30 years, and all they did was complain and bitch and complain and moan. And when you talk to them about promoting, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do the extra paperwork. Whereas my attitude was, no, I'm going to promote. I'll deal with this because maybe I can fix it and make it better. The willingness to seek responsibility out, it's an old military thing. When in doubt, take charge. Lead, follow, or get out of the way, right? Some people think that sounds stupid, but it's very true. So when in doubt, take charge. And what that goes to is, in combat, when that leader goes down, somebody's got to step up. And it goes back to my favorite saying about the military when it comes to leadership and mentorship is you are training your replacement, because one day somebody's going to promote and take your place because hopefully you will promote or you'll retire. And that's what it's all about in the end. Now, in your family, taking the responsibility can also be one partner spending habits and the other one doesn't say anything. They see it happening. But then when it becomes an issue, instead of talking it through and going, no, it's my fault because I didn't say anything. I saw you doing it and I didn't say anything. And having an actual honest discussion about it and coming to a decision on what's the right thing to do. How are we going to fix this? But you have to be willing to take responsibility for your part in the mess. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're never going to go any farther. And with seeking responsibility, if you're not ambitious, then fine, you're not ambitious. It's the way it is. But I personally don't understand how people can live that way. You're either moving forward or you're moving backwards. It's one or the other. There is no.
Naughty Black Dog says like, subscribe, and share.
All right, making sound and timely decisions. This is one of the most interesting ones, but it goes back to taking responsibility, because once you make that timely and sound decision, then you got to take responsibility if it goes bad. Because when you make decisions, all you have is the information you have at hand to make that decision. Military, you see it in combat all the time. Throughout history, you'll see this debacle, that debacle, because people made either a bad decision based on a knee-jerk reaction, or the information they had was not sufficient to have made it a better decision. In business, look at your competitors, look at this, look at that. You build up all this evidence and make a decision. There are people in this world that will go through so many scenarios in their head when they're trying to make a decision that it is 2 weeks after the fact that they were supposed to do something, and they're still trying to decide what they're going to do. I'm kind of a legal nerd. If you don't, people know me well know that. So YouTube, I watch a lot of like Mike the lawyer, Joe the lawyer. There's Mike out of Chicago with Law Talk with Mike, and listen to them because I really am. Some of the longer stuff he does is kind of boring to some people. I really like, but there's one I listened to yesterday where, because a guy had ignored court notices, he was going to get beat down for a $25,000 debt that all he would have had to do was respond to in a timely manner, but he had no leg to stand on by the time they went for a summary judgment, and there was nothing he could do to beat it. So making sound and timely decisions are very important, because if you wait too long, There's a term in the back of my head, and I cannot think of what it is, and I really wish I could, but it's basically stagnation. You're going through so many scenarios and so many what ifs, and you can what if stuff to death, but it's never going to go anywhere. In the military, in the Army, we use the military decision making process. And what that is as you're going through plans for anything, you go through a stepped process where you bring all these facts, the science staff, so the commander can use his art. And you build 3 courses of action: most preferred, preferred, and least preferred. Unless you're given a directed course of action by the commander. Now, when you're compiling these facts, you get a list of how many people you have, how much time do we have, what logistics do we have, are we going to use helicopters, are we going to use airplanes, are we going to use Humvees, are we going to use, and you go through these things and you sit down, and it's called branch planning, because as you're talking through it, you can only put so much stuff down on paper, and you only have so much time. So when you start what-ifing things, there's always a time limit on when you have to brief the commander on what you found, and at each step. And the reason that's there is to force you to make sound and timely decisions. And in the business world, that works perfectly, because you look at all your options, you look at what's out there. In the case of the business I'm in, we look at who our competitors are, what they're offering, what their costs are. And our big thing is adding the personal service to it. So when you add that in, then it helps swing decisions in our favor, because they've got my cell phone number. They can send me a text or call me. And that's my challenge to them. Call me, send me a text, see how fast I respond to you. And then do the same thing with who you're working with now. And see who gets back to you faster with a better answer. But if I sat there and waited and waited and waited, we would never grow. Because, well, yeah, they have this, but yeah, we have this too. But, it's no. That decision when I walk in there is, yes, I'm going to provide a service and add value to this business. And that's how we will continue to grow. Now, in your personal life, we kind of talked about it. Make sound and timely decisions, because you do have to make decisions in your family. And if you wait too long to make them, sometimes the opportunity passes you by. By the same token, if it turns out that your decision was bad, I am dealing with that with a vehicle right now that, yeah, I needed a new vehicle and I regret the one I got. But that's on me, because given all the evidence I had and the information I had, I went with what I thought was the best deal. And it turns out it wasn't. But that's on me. Once again, take responsibility for your actions. Take responsibility for your mistakes. That's the most important thing you could do. And as a family, discuss this with your kids. That whole growing up where some families, mom and dad are perfect. They never do anything wrong. They never make bad decisions. No, when they get to a certain age, you can start being honest about this, because it'll help them grow into better, more well-rounded adults. All right, that's all I got for you this evening. Hey, everybody have a great evening. Spend time with your family. Please like, share, subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you disagree with me, go ahead and let me know what you disagree with. Coming up, we're going to do a couple more on leadership, and I'm going to get back to 2 videos a week. And I'm going to do politics and economics on Tuesday, and then Thursday will be leadership or another subject like that. Kind of mix it up, because I kind of miss doing the political ones, and I kind of miss some of the unalive threats I get on social media since I haven't posted on YouTube. But everybody have a great evening, and remember the words of JFK: dare to fail greatly. Always dare to fail greatly.